Hello guys and welcome to yet another episode of Air Tycoon Online 340. I think this is finally episode 40, though in some sense it's episode 39 because I missed episode 37. It was an upload where the upload failed somehow, but I had already deleted the video clip, so I won't be making that mistake again. But anyways guys, this episode today what we're going to be doing is hopefully taking my company and trying to make it a little bit better because as you guys can see, the down ticks are still pretty nasty. Um, we go from comfortably extremely high profits, and when we get to the down ticks, we'll start to get to some ridiculously low profit, like 1 billion, or this down tick, for example, is 1.98 billion, though it's not even the lowest one yet. So yeah, basically what's going on is I've just noticed that there's a lot of problems with this company in terms of profitability. It's very low during down ticks. And basically, one thing I was trying to do is I was trying to figure out why. Now, as you guys can see, of course, the bottom least profitable routes are pretty bad, but honestly not too much to complain about. But the good routes, of course, there's also many. For example, in the 3 to 4K range, as you guys will see here, these are all stopovers of 747s. And of course, if a stopover of a 747 is making 3 to 4K, that's very good because presumably the other half's making at least 2K. Um, that's a decent profit, and that trend continues down the board, as you guys can see here across the board. Like here we're getting into 777s, but there's very few 747s who are in this range of profit, where the profit is pretty poor. There are some, um, for example, this 747, but like in general, as you guys can see how short these stopover halves are, presumably the other side is doing a lot better. And this just continues, like, all the way. All the profits don't seem bad, yet I struggle to make, good profits on upticks, and I'm starting to wonder why. So, looking more in deep, I started to examine, individual routes with individual planes, and I noticed some really weird discontinuity things. For example, Rome to Rochester is a Boeing 777-300. The other half of the stopover is Okinawa to Rome. Understandably, Okinawa to Rome is doing very well with, 4.6K profit, but Rochester to Rome is a pretty bad route, yet here we are sitting above 3K. Now, oddly enough, if I switch to another route roughly similar to Okinawa, or not to Rochester, even better, Omaha, we can find that it's making just the same amount, and it's also a plane which isn't even at 100% occupancy in any class. And despite Omaha being considerably larger of a city than Rochester, Rochester being 240 combined business and tour, and Omaha being, um, what is that, like 240? So, 20 plus 7. So, almost 30 points bigger, same profit. And this trend even continues to, even larger cities. For example, this is Chevport to Rome. Also a plane which isn't at 100% occupancy yet, charging, much higher prices with a still very, very high occupancy of 94%. And yet we're looking at a pretty bad profit of 2.3K with a 77-200. Basically, what I've noticed is that it's really hard to predict how much your plane will make. And in addition to that, if I sort by planes, I noticed certain things about planes which I think were quite alarming. One of them is it seems to me, and I'm not sure if this is true, that the price you pay for certain aspects of a plane, aka maintenance, aka depreciation cost, obviously, depends what seems to me like solely based off of the price of the plane. And I noticed this because um, if we take a look at 777-200s, which carry almost 100 less passengers, I think it's 80 less passengers, we can see that if we scroll slowly through these routes, if you average all these routes, each plane is making about 5K. Maybe you could consider it 6K, but I would argue the average 777-200 for me is making 5K profit when you add, the two stopover halves together. Now, of course, there are some which are doing really badly, like these three direct ones. Okay, whatever. I'll keep that in mind. Do not use such large aircraft for direct routes in the future. Um, But we keep going, and once we hit the 777-300s, which hopefully comes soon, uh, where the frick? Um, yeah, I have a lot of 77-200s, I guess. Uh, Let me see if I can use this. Okay, here we are, 777-300s. You see the same thing. These planes are making, you know, basically the exact same amount as the 777-200s. And I'm wondering, and these are on, in general, slightly better routes. So I was wondering maybe if I use these 777-300s instead of the 777-200s, it would be better probably. Like even the 100% occupancy ones are making just a purely mediocre amount of profit. Like this plane, Orlando to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Shenzhen. Oh, that's not the same plane. But like, uh, I'm confused now. But anyways, oh yeah, those are direct. This is a direct 777-300, 100% occupancy, 1.29 price. It's making 4K. Like, what? It's so garbage. Like, and basically, I think the reason for that is like fuel cost is understandable. Fuel is expensive. The fuel is per seat. There's a lot of seats. Cost is high, but I'd expect a plane a route of this caliber to be making 5, 6, 7K. And I really think the culprit to my bad downticks is the 777-300 and maybe even dash 200 models because they're so expensive. Um, Take a look at this. The total expense is 8K. Now, a 747 with 4 engines and 60 more seats and more fuel consumption because the plane is older uh, has a what's it called? Let's see this. Has a total expense of 9K. The maintenance expense of the 777 is basically the same. And the only expense you really save on, if anything, is fuel. So basically, what that led me to think is, you know what? It's probably not worth using the 777. In fact, from now on, I'm going to be trying to avoid using aircraft that large. I'm still going to use the 77-200 because for whatever reason, 777-200 does not seem to suffer from the efficiency issues of the 777-300. I mean, the 777-200s with 100% occupancy are still making, in general, 5 to 6K, which is, huh? Have I forgot to compress the seats of all my 777s? Okay, no. Is it just because I've never ordered a 777-200 on this phone before? Because hopefully I haven't been ordering 777-200s with large seats, because that would obviously explain why they weren't making as much money as I thought. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's just because this is the first time I've ordered aircraft um, of this type on this phone. As you guys know, I do have two phones which I generally play ATO on. So hopefully I haven't just been ordering aircraft with huge seats, but let me just make sure, all the aircraft I'm ordering. Okay, I have 100 unused aircraft, so it's time to, make some routes, but yeah, anyways, basically what I've been saying is I think I should start avoiding using the 77-300, and I'd recommend all of you avoid the 77-300 too. And the main reason for this, I think it's just because its purchase cost is too high, and therefore its depreciation and maintenance costs seem to scale with that. Um, and of course, flight attendants scale with size. Um, what else scales with the size of the aircraft? The fuel efficiency is like per seat. So yes, it's quite efficient per seat, the 77-300, but it has a lot of seats anyway. So it's no longer that fuel efficient because of all the seats you're carrying around. So basically, thanks to the ultra high purchase cost of the 77-300, I find that it's not very profitable. Like as you guys could see when I was scrolling through my routes, let me do it again. In the 777-300 zone, the stopover planes are making about 5 to 6K. This plane is making, 5K, this one here, you see that? This plane is direct, it's making 4.5K, pretty bad. This plane is a stopover, as you guys can see, it's making 5K. This plane's a stopover, it's making shy of 5K even. This plan's a stopover. It's even worse. It's making only 3K. No, mediocre numbers across the board. Now, however, I think there is a bright side to this because other planes, which I don't expect to make a lot, are making a lot. One of those is the 767 400. As you guys can see, okay, here's the few stopover 767 400s I have. Look at how much they're making. The same as almost the same as the 777s. It's a very cheap aircraft, which I can put on much more relaxed routes. And I say relaxed in the sense I can put them on any route and they're full. Like literally almost any imaginable stopover route, and these planes are full. And look at it. Each half of the stopover is making 2.2 K, 2K. So basically, the average 767 is making 4K, and I generally am putting these planes on like far inferior routes. Um, and for that reason, I've also ordered, the A330 2-200, the smallest A330 available. This plane also has a very nice effect where when I place them on stopovers, let me see if I can find the few stopover routes I have. I probably won't be able to, so um, I'll just look in this menu. Nope, those are A340s. Whoops. Where's the A330-200? Here it is. I've made a few of these on stopover routes just to see what happens, and of course, these are on quite lackluster routes, and as you guys can see, the plane is doing excellently. It's doing amazingly. When you combine the halves of the stopover, in fact, this plane is making 4.5K. It's an A320 for Pete's sake. This route here, it's, not making, just shy of 4K, but like if you average these planes out, they're flying worse routes and making almost as much money as my 777s. And basically, I think I've realized that the 777s, which I've been, spending so much time making over the past week, making tons of routes for them, are simply holding my company back. I think it's probably more efficient for me to be ignoring larger routes and making smaller routes like the one I'm making right now, and just using smaller aircraft. For the very small routes, I'll be using A330s, and for the medium routes, I'm going to be choosing between A340 500s and 767 400s, with I think the 767 400 and later the what's it called? Uh, what's that plane called? Oh, whatever. The 787 Dreamliner, there we go. The 787 will be the future replacements for some of my older 767s. And once, the 767 is a bit outdated, I think I'm going to be switching to those as, my main aircraft. Um, One thing to keep in mind is that this world is very close to over, of course. But I think I can make a push to pass the number one player. I'm getting closer and closer to passing him every day, basically. Basically, the value gap between me and him is decreasing, so that's really leaving me hopeful of being able to catch up with him, basically. And oh god, I only have two slots in Amsterdam. Uh, that's annoying. Let me just request some slots in Amsterdam then. Um, but yeah, basically, I'm really hopeful of passing this guy. The gap between me and him is decreasing at about 8 million per day. And at that rate, I won't pass him, but I can increase the rate. I'm getting close to him, hopefully in the next 5 days. So the last 10 years 10 years of this world can kind of just be me rallying and hopefully overtaking him um, in terms of value. Like, that's basically my hope. I'm not sure if it's possible and if I'm wasting my time and I should just, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of this world because um, I'm not going to catch up to him and I'll just take, the second place or whatever. But I was taking it so seriously, I even spent 6 Canadian dollars in order to buy myself some credits so I can maintain just the consistency of having, what is it? I like to have a maintenance depot, and I like to have a lounge in every single one of my airports. Basically, I was noticing that because in some of my airports I had lounges and in some of them I didn't. Basically, what was happening is in the airports with lounges, the business classes were all full, and in the ones without, the business and first classes were mostly underutilized, not empty, but very underutilized. So to keep it consistent, the fact that most of my airports had lounges in them, from uh, I think the $10 worth of credits I spent to basically start myself off in this world with slots, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, basically I have had to spend $10 or basically $15 in this world, but that's not a lot. I feel like everyone should spend the $5 to get your slot requests and that kind of stuff. Uh, if you're seriously thinking about placing high in the world, otherwise it'll take a bit too long. One thing I noticed is that I'm having a lot of trouble finding and creating routes. Actually, it's a bit difficult uh, when you're trying to go fast and talk at the same time, actually, because of course, like, each one of these planes is very good. I've noticed, uh, like, just making these derpy ass little stopover routes are hopefully going to increase my profit by a huge amount. And from now on, I'm going to be trying to make most of my routes out of 767-400s, because they are, for me so far, what I've from my observations, the most effective plane. Uh, Simply put, so hopefully I'll be able to uh, take advantage of the 767s and A330-200s, depending on the route, um, and do really well. I'm gonna need to make hundreds and hundreds of new routes. I think I'm gonna probably have to make 100, maybe probably 200 routes a day for the next at least 5 days. For me to have a chance of catching up with the first. Basically, wherever I put this freaking dot, I always click it by accident. That's kind of annoying. But yeah, basically, I hope that I'm gonna somehow be able to catch up. I know I ordered more 777-200s, but I really gotta stop. I really got. It's just such a habit for me to order 777. It's such a habit for me to order 777-200s, just because I've been using them for so long and they've been a staple. I think the 200s are actually okay. I think I might keep using the 200s because they do, unlike the seven seven sevens, have the chance of being highly highly profitable. So basically, because of that, I think I should still use them, but I should stop ordering them. And what I should start doing with the 777s is start moving the 500 or so 777s I have onto routes I have with stopovers with smaller aircraft. And then what I should do is basically order only 747s, because I think the 747s are still fantastic, fantastic aircraft. Um, the 747s, unlike the 777s, um, just tend to make more. Like, if you put them on the routes which they deserve to be on, they will make you the money. You know what I mean? They won't do that, like, strange thing. Like, for example, where I put my 777s on some decent routes and they're just like, what? Like, what? How much are you making? Like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, do you see that direct 100% occupancy, 1.3 pricing 777 I showed earlier this episode, which somehow, some way, do I have no 747s? Well, I guess I'll use a 777-200 then. But that full 777-300 was only making 4.5K. Like, wow, you're making 500, like, you're making, like, a few percent more than a freaking A330 or some small, like, 767. Like, that's just not good for me. Um, I think I'll keep that in mind for future playthroughs to avoid the 777-300 like a plague and use the 777-200 sparingly. And any route which is big enough to do that, probably I should consider just using a large 747. The 747s have never done me wrong. Basically, if you think the plane route deserves a 777, okay, I say that, then I click this route. But as you can see, this kind of route, huh? Like this kind of route, I thought this that's the wrong Portland. I see. I must have thought this was the other Portland, which is why I upgraded this plane to a 747. But yeah, as you can see, this side of the route, which deserves a large aircraft like the 747, is making the amount it should be. So probably when I was upgrading that plane to a 747, I misread this Portland, and I thought that was the Portland near Vancouver. You know what I mean? That one has a decent business and tour, and then therefore I replaced this plane with a decent sized aircraft, when in fact it should have probably been a 777-200 or smaller aircraft. Basically, what I'm going to do now from now on is be much more careful about the size of the plane I use for each route, because despite my goal to be to increase my profit as much as possible, period, flying empty seats doesn't do that. Sorry, excuse me, I'm probably a little bit sick, but like, it seems to me that using, simply put, a smaller aircraft can just make you more money, even on somewhat what I would consider decent routes, which is a bit unfortunate because I invested so many good routes into my 777s, and I don't want to throw them away. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like what, 200 plus 777 300s, 200 plus, and I don't think a single one of them is doing my company any good more than another plane could be. Um, Same with the 777 200s. You know, I have 28 more I have to use, and I have a total of, almost 550 777s, and very little by comparison other aircraft. It's the majority of my fleet. Um, I have some small Airbuses. How many Airbuses do I have? Probably around 300 something Airbuses. I have, 80 MDs. I have a 700 747s. Um, Approximately. No, I don't quite have 700 747s. Um, but yeah, I have a lot of 747s. And one thing that I've been noticing is some of my 767 777 300s were used to replace routes which were probably previously. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look at Madrid to Tampico to Colombo. 100% occupancy, decent pricing, and look at this profit. 2K? 2K? What? That's less than an A330 would make. Like, I don't get, why is the plane so bad? New Orleans to New York to Daman. Look at this. It's like, it's so little. I don't get it. The plane should be making more. It should be making more. Indianapolis to London. That's a great route. Okay, it's multi layers of competition. But, like, I don't know. I don't know, man. The plane should be making more. There's too many routes I see with that aircraft, which should be making a lot more than it's making. And it makes me somewhat upset that I have so many of them and I don't know what to do with them. Um, yeah, I really don't know what to do with, like, I can't throw them away because it destroys value. You know what I mean? If I replace them with another aircraft and sell it, it'll be destroying tens of millions of value per plane. Um, and I don't have that many millions of value to waste. Um, it's too late in the game for that. So I just have to unfortunately suck it up and realize I wasted the time and the routes for a lot of those 777s, and continue on and make tons and tons and tons more routes on smaller, more efficient, um, and then hopefully, therefore, more profitable aircraft. Um, yeah, it's going to take a while. Like, as you guys can see, the route creation is going quite slow as of recently, just due to the saturation of the route market. I've taken most of the routes, of course, with the 777s that are, obvious to me. Um, and unfortunately, those 777s are not making the money they should be. I really don't know what to do about that. I think one thing I could do is I could just replace them, and I don't know. But then I have to put them somewhere. I can't just have all these airplanes not flying. You know what I mean? I put myself in a bit of a predicament here. Uh, what do I do with all these 777-300s? I think the dash 200s are fine. They are making as much money as I would suspect. For example, this, okay, that's a 747, but um yeah, let me go back to my routes tab to make my point. Um Here are my 777-200s, and here's a decent stopover route. Moscow to Birmingham to Phnom Penh. Now, this is a decent stopover. It's making 5K. Okay, can't complain. It's not even 100% occupancy. Here's a decent stopover route. Omaha to Barcelona. Barcelona to Mombasa. It's making 5K. Okay, well, acceptable. It's making the same as a smaller airplane would, but it's not worth replacing. You see what I mean? Um, Over here, we have a Semarang to Rome and Rome to Ottawa. 2.2K each. I could be making more with a larger plane or a more efficient plane, but it's decent. You see what I mean? The 777-200s I can accept, but for some reason the 777-300s with 80 more seats make the same or less than most of my 777-200s, and that's the perplexing part. Why are they making less? I don't get it. Like, especially the ones with 100% occupancy, which are still not making very much money. Like, what? What's going on? Do I, huh? Oh, I already had Idaho Falls to Paris, but yeah, basically, in a very long-winded way, I'm just confused about the way routes generate money and the way expenses are calculated, and from now on, I'm gonna hopefully not get screwed over by using aircraft which are too large, and I'm just gonna stick with A330s. I'm gonna stick with Boeing 767-400s, and for larger planes, I will use probably in the future A380s for some of my super good routes, which I do have some, which I think should have A380s on them. But then just mostly 747s. Now, one problem I am having is the 747 of choice, the Dash 400, is getting really, really, really old. And that is a problem because the 747 is getting old to the point where it's like I'm really not too sure what I should be doing with it. Should I still be buying it? Because at some point its occupancy is going to drop below like probably 80 before the next 747 like comes out. I think the next one's the Dash 8i or whatever the fuck it's called. Um and that's, I looked it up on the internet. It's like 2012 or something like that. So that's a long way from now. Now, if I have to wait that long to start replacing my 747s and adding new routes which deserve 747s, though I don't think that's going to be very many, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's actually quite interesting for me, this round of Air Tycoon, to decide what I should be doing with my planes. Yeah, look at this, 747 dash 400, 500 or something of them, and the first ones are about to go. Um, Bengaluru to Paris. If this, okay, yeah, that's no longer still a monopoly, but like what kind of plane should I be using to replace them? Just another 747 dash 400? Like, that means this plane is approaching 20 years old. You know what I mean? I don't think I want to be replacing it with another identical plane. Uh, Miami to Paris. Okay, no. I was like, there's no way that's a monopoly. But there's some routes in here which definitely could be A330s. I'm sure I'll be able to find some. Phoenix. Nope. Nope. But I'm sure there's plenty. Like Calcutta to Los Angeles. No, I'm eventually gonna find some of these that aren't competition that are great. But maybe just not on camera, because for some reason the camera loves to prove me wrong when I say something like, yeah, these are great routes which I could replace or whatever, but Paris to Santo Domingo, I don't know. Yeah, basically, I'm sure somewhere in this plentiful list of routes, um, there are ones which are extremely good monopolies, And those are the routes which I want to be replacing with A380s. But then what do I replace the rest of them with? Do I just replace all of them with A380s regardless? Whoa, that's pretty bad. That's some newfound competition right there. Air KK. Gotta be screwing with me, eh? Air KK. Damn. The thing is, he's screwing with me, but he's screwing with himself too, which is kind of nice, in some sense. Like, I'm looking at his profit reports, and his downturns are even worse than mine by some margin, which is why I'm catching up to him slowly. But yeah, hopefully I'm able to do something to pass him up. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's getting really long. And anyways, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.